right.
Not that it has anything to do with anything, but I've had clothes in the dryer for, I'd say, 6 hours.
Yeah, I can hear it.
And it's just, they're still soaking wet. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I think it's the problem is too is I think it's broken. Like the sensor doesn't work. You know how it senses when it's dry and then it shuts off, and so I can't leave when the dryer's on, which is super inconvenient. But now, in addition to that, it's just I feel like it's not drying. So
yeah. Johan, what's going on, man? Good to have you.
What's up, man?
How's business going, Johan? Johan's actually one of our students. He's been very successful with brand direct wholesale. Is he doing like 7 figures in sales his first year?
Yes. Yep. That's a big thing, within 12 months, right? Like if you really lock in and dedicate to something, I mean, it's amazing what you can do in, I guess, relatively speaking, a short amount of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my mark is like 90 days. I think that 90 days of pure, consistent, like just total full force in your business, you can definitely see a massive progress in 90 days or starting from nothing.
Yeah. I think one of the questions that we get asked a lot is something relating to, it's relating to like how much starting capital do I need to start something like wholesale, right? And I think the reality is that 90-day window, like you said, is more so to develop the skill sets in order to invest in your future rather than to say, well, how much money do I need or how much money can I make in a 90-day period? At the beginning, it's not even about that. Like money is the last thing that should be of your concern.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's the first part of the process is really just to prove, that the system works, and assuming you're contacting the right kinds of companies, you are going to, and you're calling 50 to 100 brands a week, you are going to have success, right? Mm-hmm. It reminds me of, actually just share my screen. It reminds me of this flow chart. This would be valuable to share. We put it in a YouTube video once, but we could share it again here. So basically, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, what we have here is a high-level overview of what happens inside of a brand direct wholesale business, and really how we've built our business up to this point, right? This is like an actual SOP that we share with our team. It's like an holistic SOP, but it goes back to that, again, the first step in the process is setting up your business. Step number 1, right? Business EIN, resale permit, business email, website. You have those things in check. The next step is sourcing, right? You got to be sourcing the right kinds of companies, and that's what we dive into here on these lives. And then assuming you are sourcing the right kinds of brands, right? You're targeting, a blend between the average selling price, the unit volume, whether the brand is well or poorly represented on Amazon or somewhere in the middle. And these are the exact criteria that we go into on our sourcing here, right? So assuming you're sourcing the right kinds of companies, then you move into the outreach phase. And this is the phase that dictates the rest of your business, basically, because if the brand says, yeah, we're interested, we'll work with you, well, then there's a whole path off of that. If their brand says, we're not really sure right now, or, we're not really interested right now, but their tonality signals that they're kind of, not 100% certain in their position, that's a whole nother pipeline, right? And then if the brand says, no, absolutely not, we're not interested, then we kind of make a hard stop there. And that part of the process, that outreach, is really what dictates the rest of your business.
Yeah, and everything with that process kind of builds on itself. Like, one of the things that we valued is to allow the other people on the team to understand their point in all of that, right? Because the entire process needs to work together. Like, if one of the bolts isn't in there, right, like the wheel's going to fall off, right? It all has to flow together. And so understanding how to source is great, but if you understand how to source and you don't understand how to reach out to the companies, it doesn't mean anything. So super important that you understand this entire process. But we start at the beginning, which is on these lives, which is the sourcing, because if we don't have that, then realistically we can't even do the rest of the process.
Right. So if you guys are joining in here, drop a comment. Let us know if you have any questions. Usually we try to answer as many questions as come in, really. It doesn't have to be related to anything specific. It could be anything Amazon. We'll dive into a little bit of sourcing here as I pull up my screen momentarily. But yeah, guys, I mean, this is a spot where we want to get your questions answered. So before we dive into the sourcing, I'm just setting my Keep a Product Finder filters. And if you guys haven't tapped into any of the other lives that we've done, we always go through the Keep a Product filters. So I'm just going to go right through them because I want to get right to the sourcing.
Yeah, definitely. And that criteria changes over time. Like, yes, it's important to focus on maybe the types of filters that we talk about setting, but at the same time, like when you're starting out at the beginning, you're not necessarily going to be contacting these massive home run brands because you're just learning the process. So there's nothing wrong with contacting the smaller brands that sell a couple hundreds of units a month at the beginning, just to start understanding and learning the process, right? Go wide before you go deep,
Yeah. I think a lot of sellers, they get caught up and they, maybe they're contacting too large of brands, right? But you'd be surprised that, even in the beginning, like a couple hundred units a month, right? 200-300 units a month can go a long way in your business as a beginner. And even, all you got to do is accumulate those, right? It's like you could get one account doing 100 units a month, but if you get 10 of those, now you're really starting to have that compounding growth effect in the business.
Yeah, there's such a huge compounding effect with wholesale because, again, we talk about like it's not that one-to-one. We're jumping into a couple questions here. First one from Johan. What are your thoughts on finding brands that do well outside of Amazon? How do you find those kinds of brands? Been seeing some posts from Jonah talking about that. Jonah, for those that don't know, Jonah Hodges, a good friend of ours in the wholesale space as well. Absolutely crushing it. And yeah, I mean, finding brands that do well outside of Amazon. Jonah likes to really focus on a lot of those, bringing those brands to market as well as those brick and mortar relationships. And that's definitely an approach. I think that we look for, traffic outside of Amazon, right? I always say, I said this to a brand literally today. I said that Amazon doesn't necessarily create demand; it just creates exposure for existing demand, right? And so we look for brands that have a history. If it doesn't have a history, there's got to be a real vested interest. In other words, like we're already exclusive with one of the other lines of the brand or something like that in order to start launching and doing all of that on Amazon. Because it's just got to be worth it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just not our first approach, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, we're not looking for brands that don't sell on Amazon. I mean, sure, there's brands out there that do well on other platforms and maybe have not yet been listed on Amazon. But I'd rather partner with a brand that we can just immediately buy from and start making money from on day one, rather than putting a bunch of work up front and trying to build, translate demand from another channel to Amazon. I'm not saying that can't happen, can very well be done, but in my opinion, you have to incorporate some sort of consulting fee during the interim time of which you launch that product, because as we all know, it's no easy task to just launch a product on Amazon, right? You got to worry about your building your listing, optimizing your listing, images, titles, bullet points, back end stuff, right? Any issues with Amazon, then you got to run ads to that product, right? And like you could be looking at 3 months before you sell a unit, right? So like if you are going to take that approach, I would recommend having some sort of a consulting fee built in so that you can at least cover your costs during that setup phase. And then once it's set up, transition that into a distributorship model where you have the exclusivity on Amazon. But where we have found the most success in has been to take demand that is already there, partner with the brand, pour fuel on an already burning fire, help grow that existing demand that's out there. And then when we have the exclusivity, reinvest into launching some of those other products that might not yet be on Amazon for the brand.
Yeah, exactly. Question here from Avery as well. How do you deal with companies mentioning a brick and mortar store automatically disqualify it, or do you still push? What do you say on that?
And what's going on, Avery? Great to have you in here. Thanks for joining. So yeah, how do you deal with companies mentioning a brick and mortar store? It's all based in the tonality as number one. So like if they're like, if you ask your calibrated question and you introduce your company and you're like, and they're like, yeah, we have, brick and mortar stores, like, or we're more so working with brick and mortar stores. We have some online companies. We're not really interested in that right now. That signals to me more of a tonality that they may be receptive to, they're not strict on not allowing e-commerce, versus a tonality that just is completely standoffish and only emphasizes brick and mortar stores. And so that would be the disqualifier of if we push or not. It's not in the brick and mortar store in and of itself, because we've had, how many brands have we had that are like, yeah, we're only working with brick and mortars, and like now we're exclusive with them.
Yep. Yeah, I think it really comes down to like, are they using the brick and mortar store to disqualify you, or are they using it as almost a cry for help, saying that we don't understand Amazon, so therefore we're not going to deal with it, basically. So exactly like Brad said, it's all just in the tonality and how they ask, how they say the statement to you, basically, which is, again, why we get on the phone. So really good question. And again, like Brad said, Avery, thanks for joining. I think you're a new face in here. I haven't seen you before. So thanks for joining the live. And if you guys have other questions, let us know. Yep, it's in the questioning. Makes sense, more of a brush off, so just dig deeper. Exactly. It's exactly what you want to do. A lot of times that's what it's about in general, though. It doesn't really matter what the objection is. It just comes down to like how it's phrased, essentially.
Yeah. So right now I'm in keep a product finder, and some key metrics that you want to set in your data tool of keep a product finder is you want to set the rank. You want to check Amazon not being on the listing. You want to set that price point usually above $20. Competition anywhere from 3 to like 15 sellers max. Anything above 15 sellers is going to be hard to make money on right away. What else? Am I missing anything else?
No, I mean, there's certain categories that we definitely will exclude. Things that we don't want to take a look at.
Yeah. Looks like this just reset my stuff. So let me just blow through this real quick.
Yeah, it's funny. You're like, I'm going to blow through this and then reset it on us anyway. So, yeah, so exactly. So stuff like that. I mean, obviously there's things that we're not going to be selling because we can't sell them, but there's also things that we might want to stay away from. And you'll notice this as you do your outreach with certain categories and certain product types, is that it's just an industry that you might want to stay away from, whether it's because of high returns or compliance or brick and mortars or whatever it might be. You'll just kind of notice a trend of these things as you do outreach more and more.
Yeah. And so guys, anybody watching, like this is your key metric to set you apart from all the other Amazon sellers, because this is where you can actually inherently target brands that don't have A+ content so that you can come in and strategically offer value to the brand like we talked about right here. So this is what, in this outreach portion, like by inherently targeting brands that are underrepresented on Amazon right here, meaning they, don't have A+ content, they don't have a really good looking listing, you are increasing the likeliness of your success here because you can actually come to the table with a value. So that's why we set this.
Yeah. And we're just making an assumption basically, right, to say that, well, if the brand doesn't have A+ content, then, we're assuming that they don't have a good presence on in other aspects on Amazon.
Yeah. And at least, I like at least with, at least we're going into it knowing there's at least one value add, right? Because if they don't have A+ content, then at least we can add something. Nobody's saying that like their entire listing sucks. They might have other good stuff going for them on Amazon. But at least, if nothing else, we can, pitch them on A+ content.
Right. Yeah. I wish there was filters on Keep a Product Finder and things like that for number of images and things like that. That would be a great addition.
Yeah. All right, so we just kind of scroll here, and you've talked about before how kind of like your eyes are just going to the image at first, even though like we have so many metrics here, but like you want to just maybe speak to like why? Because me too, like we're always looking at like, all right, what is the product inherently? What is it?
Sure. Yeah, I think that the initial thing is just like at a glance, what you can see on the product. Again, it's the same thing as the A+ content. Like we really are at first, we're judging the book by its cover, and we're doing that with the product image as well, because we're looking for something that's maybe a little more of a niche. It's also something that is not represented well. And I think that if I was going to do anything on Amazon to optimize a listing, the first things that I would do are probably either the title or I would do the images. And so if they haven't done that, if it's got a bad image, then chances are the rest of the listing is not good as well. Versus like if they have no A+ content, like the rest of the listing could be great still, and they just have no A+ content. But there's more of a chance that their presence is it's a telltale sign of them not having control over it. So that's one thing we look for on the listing, the image.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just kind of scrolling through here, seeing if there's anything catches your eye.
Yeah, a lot of this too. I mean, at the end of the day, when you look at stuff so much, you start to understand outliers. And if you're looking at so many brands, eventually something will, like, for example, right now that at the top, that was it, say, children's memory foam. Yeah, that foot support thing. Like, if we click on that, I could pretty much already tell. Based on that is what I would consider to. I was going to say some type of private label or some sort of like that was a listing that I would not contact. Like, and I know that we didn't even click on the listing yet, and I knew that based on the fact of the image, what the type of product was. It looked very manufactured, I guess would be the word. And those listings we stay away from. And so I would have no reference point of something like that unless I've clicked on 1,000, 10,000 listings, right? And so we're able to make a split-second judgment based on looking at something like the image that, picture speaks 1,000 words, right? So it's just an easy data point, an easy metric.
Let me jump back in here in just a second. Let me just.
Yep. So, there's a lot of different things, but I think especially as a beginner, it's a little bit easier to understand as well. And Avery in here asking, what's considered a bad image. I think, a bad image is really, first of all, we're looking at the first image of the product, which the first image of the product is supposed to be terms of service compliant on a white background type of deal. And, a bad image would be something that's not on the white background. It would be something that's blurry. It would be something that clearly is just not good photography, right? Any reflections or something like that. But then as we dig deeper and we get into other images other than the first one, now we're talking about things such as no infographics, no lifestyle photography, things like that.
And just for context, like, what is a lifestyle photo? What is an infographic?
Yeah. So I always describe images as it's what I like to describe it as, like, the text on the listing and the keywords are what gets the product in front of the buyer's eyes. And then the images and the infographics and the lifestyle photography, which I'll go into, is what gets them to convert or to buy. Right. And so when we think about it from that perspective, the infographics and the lifestyle photography are things that get the consumer, now that they're already looking at the listing, it solves problems for them. So, it might show the product in use in their real life, which is that lifestyle photography, things like that. If it's I don't know, like a light or a lamp or something that they're selling, it'll show that picture of that light in someone's house to basically allow you to imagine what it would look like in your house to convince you to buy it. Right. Same thing with infographics, where it'll show the features. So it might show the material or the dimensions or things like that to, again, overcome objections and just allow that consumer who's looking at the images to make a purchase basically based on what's on there. So that's a basic explanation of what it is. You can get really in depth with it, but that's lifestyle and infographics. And listings that don't have those, those can be improved, and that's a value add to the brand.
Yeah, and so you'll see a lot of this process is just scrolling through. But like, once you start finding products, you then start opening them up, you take a look at them, and then you look at the other sellers' stores that are selling the product, and then you go through those stores and see if there's any products in their stores. And it's this never-ending rabbit hole that just continues to go and go.
Yeah. And to kind of go back to that question too, it's also, if you were to see one product, one ASIN on Amazon, you would have no gauge on or no understanding of if that was good or bad, because it's all right? So, it's like whatever it is. If you saw, just as an example, right? If the only baseball game you ever saw, the team scored 50 runs, you would think that's normal, right? But in reality, it just comes down to, like, looking at listings over and over and over again, so you have a baseline to compare it to. It's, just over time you learn what's bad and what's good based on that.
Yeah, you have to immerse yourself in the process in order to, have data and understand. Like, it just gives you the experience to compare product listings.
Sure.
So I got a couple products open. Let's see if we can find one more, and then we'll take a look at them.
Yep, definitely.
All right, so this, for instance, this product caught my attention because of the main image. It also sells 800 plus, pretty good volume.
And just what about that main image?
So it's out of compliance, like you were saying before. Well, it's not out of compliance. It's just crappy, because it's on this.
Yeah.
It looks like it was just taken in a light box. It's got a shadow, and that's the only image for that matter. So interesting. And sometimes, we'll look at things that are. Yeah, so one thing I noticed here was like, all right, this is an interesting product, niche, a little bit obscure. But then I saw that the name of the brand is also the seller right here
Right.
in the buy box. So that's not really something we would want to look at.
Yeah, and the reason behind that obviously is, if the brand is selling it, if they're the only seller, then obviously you're not going to be able to be competitive, but you're also not going to get it at a cheaper price. So if the brand is if there's no map and the brand is selling cheaper than you, they could be selling it at what would be a loss for you, but they're making money, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. So why don't we take a look at some of these products that we opened here?
Yeah. Yeah, and let's actually use this to really answer this question here too about glaring red flags for a title similar to bad imaging. I wouldn't say glaring red flags is necessarily a word. I think a red flag would be something that's out of compliance type of deal. But just in looking at these three listings very quickly, I mean, we can already see there's a strong difference in some of the titles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And product doesn't have the best reviews. Anytime product goes slightly below 4 stars, we start to, it starts to raise an eyebrow. I would be curious, like what those reviews are, like if they're inherently related to the quality of the product, which it really doesn't have that many reviews. So then I ask myself, all right, how long has this product been in existence on Amazon? So we'll open this up and then look at Keepa. And yeah, really, wow, a lot going on here.
Yeah.
This is like crazy. You got this looks like
we could literally do an entire hour live just on this product right here, just from this. I mean, there's so much going on with this.
Yeah, a lot going on. I mean, number one, the product's only been in existence for 250 days, but it's weird. You would think it would accumulate more reviews than 16 in that amount of time.
Yeah, which leads me to these more kind of in-depth concepts to say, like, hey, did this split off from a different variation? I mean,
Yeah.
You
Could
know,
be. I mean, you had 34 sellers on it September 6th, and then it looks like because of there was a significant increase in demand, right? You got a
sure.
rank over 100,000 in beauty going down to sub 10,000, and that will create that drop off of sellers, especially if those sellers are arbitrage and they all have limited amounts of stock.
Yep.
Um, and this looks
Probably
like,
some virality component.
yeah, it looks like, people are arbitraging this product. Yeah, I mean, this should probably I would be concerned if I was the brand and how my product is being represented right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is a lot that to unpack there, like we said. I mean, and again, kind of leads to the arbitrage thing where the brand, the seller is a merchant fulfilled author.
Yeah, yeah.
9 left in stock, and we can see that it's already back up to how many sellers is that?
It's like 20 something, 29.
Yeah, so it's all newer stores. Looks like with not a lot of stock. I mean, this would be like this is one of those where I would be trying to call the brand, and I would almost be overwhelmed at how much information I could tell them, and it's hard to not like word vomit everything out because they don't understand what any of that means, most likely. So taking things slow and trying to really gauge where they're at would be the approach, I think, on this one.
Yeah, exactly. So here's another product we pulled up. So look at the historical data on Keeper for this.
And quite the opposite too with this one. I mean, you're looking at a lot of reviews and you're looking at solid ratings rather. Amazon
Yeah.
Choice badge.
It's a good sell price, $90, and it's moving 100 units, so that's decent.
Yep.
Price is consistent. They have several sellers.
And so right there too, could MAP have just been like these are the little things guys like to pick up on, right? Like on when is that in June, right? Did MAP just start minimum advertised pricing? I don't know. And then if that is the case, right? So we would inquire about something like that on the call. And if that is the case, that speaks to the brand trying to control its Amazon presence, right? So you can start to lean into that. And just noticing that from a line on a graph, those are the things that help close accounts.
Yeah. Yeah, all these small things that we're talking through they all paint a picture and tell a story about what's going on. And so, yeah, it's taken us years to be able to extract this in 10 seconds from a listing. But as you do this over and over again, you want to paint yourself a picture so that you can go into the call and understand like what their Amazon presence is like to potentially deliver solutions to problems that they may have. And this is exactly what we go into inside our community, right? We go deep into these products that we find on these lives and really break down a systemized outreach strategy, because that's what it's all about. It's one thing to sort, like you could source the best companies in the world, but if you don't have a system and a process for your outreach strategy and understand the sales processes that you need to take in order to close these brands, you're going to have a very difficult time closing these brands, right?
Yeah. Well, it just goes back to what we said with that, that graph from earlier, that business process, and you need the entire thing to work. The entire car needs to be there for it to drive. You can't just have the sourcing process down and then nothing else. And you can't just have the outreach process down and nothing else, or nothing's going to happen. Super important.
Right. And everything with wholesale, it really builds on itself. So you have your sourcing, right? You got to set up your business. That's layer one. That's like the foundation, right, of the house. And then you have to start building up from there, right? You start sourcing the right kinds of companies. And then you have to outreach to those companies. And then great, you land an account, but now you have to understand how to buy. And you got to understand how to read the data to make strategic buying decisions. right? And so the process doesn't stop there. And then you have to like be able to manage your cash flow to restock the right amount of inventory and you know, worry about all the back end stuff and the levers to pull. And so brand direct wholesale, I mean, wholesale in general, brand direct wholesale, it's a simple business model, but it's not necessarily easy. You know, it's pretty simple in principle, but there's a lot of levers to pull and different moving parts to really understand in order to build something that is sustainable and lasts long term. So this is another one, right? Decent sell, like this would be another good product for a beginner. Decent sell price, $50, 100 units bought in the past month. That's pretty good. So I would just take a look at the Keepa chart here, just to give myself a historical view. And you know, it's not a $1 million product, but this is a good starter account for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is also to go back to that original inquiry about the title. Like, this is something that, not that it's a red flag, but this, if the product title tells the person who works at the company more internally than it would the consumer, then I consider that a really bad title. And this right here, that part number, whatever that is, that, you know, this means a lot of this title means nothing to anyone that's looking at it. And so that's something that's a real bad title when it's like something that the company would use internally on their price list. It does nothing for the consumer.
Yeah, and it does nothing to acquire new customers because you want to be search relevant. Like, and if the title doesn't contain search terms related to what the product is, features, benefits, etc., it's like, how's anybody going to find the product to begin with?
Exactly.
You know, and so we, like right there, we just found, you know, in doing maybe 15, 20 minutes of sourcing, we just found a few potential products that we would actually reach out to these brands, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And every single brand that's reached out to, you know, it might start out the same as in, you know, this is Operation AMZ. We're calling to open up a wholesale account, right? You know, can you tell me a little bit more about how you're dealing with e-commerce? Like, it might start out like that, but every single response is going to be different based on what those brands say to us, as well as what types of value that we can provide to them based on their listings, based on the content, based off the factors that we've talked about here in this live. And for that, you have to understand how to do outreach, which, again, that is something that we go very in depth on within our community. And we show you guys exactly how to close these accounts and these brand exclusives. And just like that, my laundry shut off after 6 hours.
Yeah. And so, guys, that being said, you know, if you guys are interested in working with us directly via direct mentorship inside our community, you know, shoot us a message on Operation AMZ Instagram. I mean, we'll get back to you in about 2 seconds and we can have a chat. It's all about like the 2 phases of it's like source the right companies and then contact those companies. Like, we put a lot of focus on sourcing the right kinds of companies. Like for a long time, we were like, you know, let's outreach or let's outsource the sourcing as much as possible. Yeah. But, you know, over the years, we've understood that, hey, actually, it might make more sense to like, yes, outsource it, but you really want to make sure if you're going to outsource it to VAs, you really want to make sure that they are trained on exactly what the right brands to contact are, because you are going to have a bad list of brands that you're just going to be doing outreach to, and you're just going to not be getting any phone calls answered because you're probably contacting too large companies. And we see that a lot with beginners make that mistake is they contact too large companies and they can never get a decision maker on the phone. It's all about being able to get a decision maker on the phone. And if you have to talk to 5 different people in 5 different departments and get answering service after answering service before, like, and you can't get a decision maker, chances are you're probably contacting too large of a company.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Exactly, Avery. Yeah, targeting is you got to target the right kinds of brands for sure. And so, guys, yeah, that being said, you know, we go live every week, Tuesdays, 6 o'clock. And we'll see you. I mean, we got a lot of videos coming out for you guys, you know, so stay tapped in on YouTube. And any last minute words?
I think that's it. It was a good live, good questions. Keep doing outreach. Keep sourcing brands.
Yeah. Just
Small wins add up.
keep doing a little bit every day, because a little bit every day adds up over the long term. And that's exactly how we scale. You know, I mean, we took 3 months and said, hey, I'm going to contact 100 to 150 brands for 3 months. And if this doesn't work, then I'm going to reevaluate what this business model is all about. And, you know, it's no surprise that it worked. And so I encourage the same for you. If you're just starting, you know, contact as many brands as possible, minimum 50, you know, try to shoot for 100 a week. And if you do that for, you know, a month, 2 months, and 3 months, I mean, you're going to really start to see some traction, right? But you got to be using the right system, because you don't want to do that for 3 months and then realize your ladder's on the wrong wall, right? You're going to waste a lot of time and waste a lot of money if you make bad buys. And so that's what it's all about.
We will see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in, and keep at it. Like I said, small wins add up.
Peace
See
out.
you next week.